The Nexus Station, diplomatic hub of the Consolidated Systems Alliance, had protocols for everything. Atmospheric contamination, Protocol 3700B. First contact with previously unknown sentient species, Protocol 982G. Unexpected cosmic anomaly, Protocols 1209A through Z. But there was no protocol for Ambassador Vance Everett and the creature that followed him off the transport ship. "What?" asked High Mediator Zextool, their gelatinous form quivering with what might have been concern. "Is that?" Vance glanced down at the large canine padding alongside him. This is Fenris." The wolf hybrid dog sat on his haunches, tongue lolling, regarding the assembly of diplomatic staff with bright amber eyes. His coat was a mixture of silver and black, his frame powerful, his ears perked forward with unmistakable intelligence. The station's security scanners had gone berserk the moment Fenris crossed the airlock threshold. 3 separate systems classified him as dangerous predatory organism. 2 emergency containment teams had responded, only to halt in confusion when they discovered the predator walking calmly beside the human ambassador. That Gevel knew it didn't, said Security Director Drovash, her scaled skin flushing a deep orange. "Is a Category 3 apex predator. Its presence violates 17 separate safety regulations." Vance scratched behind Fenris's ears. "He's a dog. Well, mostly. Some wolf ancestry, but predominantly Canis familiaris. He's my companion." A murmur rippled through the assembled aliens. The Gondish representative's antennae curled inward, a sign of extreme distress. The Pelrian delegation edged backward, their tentacular appendages writhing. Even the normally unflappable Taurian observer seemed to be calculating the distance to the nearest escape pod. "Companion?" Zextool's translation matrix struggled with the concept. "You mean a bonded symbiote? A servitor organism?" "No, he means a pet," interjected cultural analyst Cribble, bouncing forward on stubby legs, fur bristling with excitement. "Humans maintain relationships with non-sentient species for recreational purposes." Drover's neck frills extended fully. "Recreational? That animal has teeth designed to tear flesh." "So do you," Vance pointed out with a polite smile. The security director's mouth snapped shut. "This is unprecedented." Zextool's voice had risen an octave. "The Diplomatic Corps Handbook contains no provisions for dangerous wildlife accompanying ambassadorial staff." Fenris yawned, revealing an impressive array of teeth that had several of the smaller species diving behind furniture. "He's not dangerous," Vance said, his patience visibly thinning. "He's domesticated. His species has co-evolved with mine for over 50,000 years. 50,000 years? The High Mediator's translucent body clouded. "And your kind deliberately guided the evolution of a predator?" "Not exactly guided," Vance shrugged. "More of a partnership, really." From the corner of the reception chamber, a figure stepped forward. Unlike the others, this being showed no fear. Standing nearly 7 feet tall, wrapped in robes that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, the representative of the rarely seen Voidwalker species regarded Fenris with what might have been amusement. "The human speaks truth," the Voidwalker said, voice resonating oddly. "Many species domesticate, few domesticate predators. Humans, unique in this." Drovesh wasn't satisfied. "With respect to the Voidwalker delegation, this creature must be secured. Our regulations are clear." "Your regulations," Vance responded coolly, "were written without consideration for Earth's cultural practices. The diplomatic treaty explicitly guarantees accommodation for the customs of all member species. The standoff might have continued indefinitely if Fenris hadn't chosen that moment to lie down and roll onto his back, paws in the air, tongue lolling in what appeared to any human as a comically unthreatening pose. Krebo couldn't contain himself. The diminutive cultural analyst scurried closer, scientific curiosity overcoming caution. Fascinating. Is this submissive behavior? A defense mechanism? And with a belly rub, Vance explained. Then, a what? Physical contact. It's pleasurable for him. You can pet him if you want. He won't bite. The assembled dignitaries watched in horror as Kribble, clearly having taken leave of his senses, extended a furry paw and tentatively touched the predator's exposed stomach. Fenris's tail thumped against the floor. Kribble jumped back, then cautiously approached again. The vibration is a sign of contentment, Vance explained. He likes you. This is madness, muttered Drovash. Complete, utter madness. High Mediator Zex Thul seemed to come to a decision, their gelatinous form solidifying slightly. Ambassador Everett, while we respect your cultural practices, you must understand our concerns. This companion presents unprecedented challenges. I understand your concerns, but Fenris stays with me. That's non-negotiable. The Voidwalker made a sound that might have been a chuckle. Humans. Always surprising. Zextul's surface rippled with indecision. Perhaps a compromise? The creature could remain in your quarters, away from public areas. That would be acceptable for now, Vance conceded, but I want it on record that this restriction is temporary, pending proper discussion. Agreed, though I must insist on a full station briefing. The other residents should be prepared. As the impromptu reception disbanded, the various delegates couldn't help casting nervous glances back at the wolf hybrid, who had rolled back onto his feet and was now sitting alertly beside his human. Cultural analyst Kribble remained, datapad in hand, recording observations with undisguised fascination. Ambassador, if you wouldn't mind, I have several thousand questions about your relationship with this predator. His name is Fenris, and I'd be happy to explain, though I suspect you'll find the answers disappointingly mundane. From across the chamber, the Voidwalker observed the human and his companion with ancient eyes that gleamed with something beyond mere curiosity. Unlike the others, the enigmatic being seemed to recognize something in the human-canine relationship that eluded the rest of the diplomatic corps. As the news spread throughout Nexus Station, 3 emergency containment protocols were activated, 17 diplomatic complaints were filed, and 1 mandatory station-wide meeting was scheduled for the following cycle. All because a human couldn't bear to travel without his dog. The xenobiology conference room buzzed with agitated conversation as representatives from 27 species crammed into a space designed for 15. A holographic display dominated the center of the table, currently showing an anatomical scan of Fenris, who had reluctantly submitted to examination after considerable bribery with synthesized meat treats. Those are killing teeth, insisted Representative Morglu of the Phosian Collective, pointing a trembling appendage at the canine dental structure, designed for ripping flesh from bone. And yet, countered cultural analyst Kribble, bouncing on his cushioned seat with poorly concealed excitement, the human allows this creature to lick his face. A collective shudder ran through the assembly. Ambassador Vance Everett leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. If we could move beyond dental fixations, perhaps Kribble can share the preliminary findings of his research. The small, furry analyst activated his presentation with a flourish. The holographic display shifted to show ancient cave paintings, depicting humans hunting alongside wolves. What we witness here is unprecedented in galactic history, Kribble announced. A predator species forming voluntary alliances with another predator species. Voluntary? Questioned Zextool, their gelatinous form now contained in a formal diplomatic shell. Or exploitation? Neither, Vance said. Cooperation. Mutual benefit. Cribble nodded enthusiastically. Correct. According to Earth historical records, early wolves and humans recognized advantages in hunting together. Wolves gained reliable access to food, humans gained sentries, trackers, and hunting assistance. The hologram shifted to show progressive changes in canine appearance over millennia. Over thousands of generations, certain wolf populations evolved, both naturally and with human guidance, into what Earth classifies as domestic dogs. Physical and behavioral traits humans found useful or appealing were selected for. Aggression toward humans was selected against. Security Director Drovash scoffed audibly. Convenient narrative, the simpler explanation. Humans weaponized a predator species through genetic manipulation. If that were true, the Voidwalker interjected from the shadows, where they preferred to remain. Would the human permit this? The holographic display changed to security footage from Ambassador Everett's quarters, showing Fenris sprawled across the diplomat's bed, occupying approximately 70% of the available space, while Vance slept, contorted into what remained. Observe, Kriebel continued. The canine dominates the sleeping territory yet faces no repercussion. This contradicts exploitation theory. Murmurs of confusion spread through the assembled representatives. Furthermore, Kriebel said, warming to his subject, human historical records document emotional bonds formed with these canines that transcend utility. Humans have memorialized dogs in art, literature, and monument. Some human cultures even include dogs in religious ceremonies and burial practices. Sentimentality toward a tool, Drovash dismissed. Primitive anthropomorphization. You miss the truth, the Voidwalker said, moving forward for the first time. The tall figure glided to the center of the room, darkness seeming to follow them. The question is not why humans keep predators. The question is why none of you do. An uncomfortable silence followed. The Voidwalker continued. Each spacefaring species faces evolutionary crucible, competition, predation, survival. Yet only humans emerged, with companions descended from apex hunters. Because it's obviously insane, muttered a tentaculoid diplomat from the back of the room. Vance smiled thinly. Ambassador Grek, your species evolved from reef-dwelling filter feeders that never faced land predators. Your evolutionary experience hardly qualifies you to judge universal sanity. If I may, interrupted Crable, there's more to consider. The holographic display shifted again, showing Fenris alertly watching station personnel from Vance's side. Note the canine's attentiveness. DNA analysis confirms heightened senses, approximately 4 times the olfactory sensitivity of human standard, hearing range triple the human spectrum, and specialized neural pathways for detecting movement. Talking security system, observed someone dryly. Precisely, Cribble agreed, missing the sarcasm entirely. But one bound, not by programming or mechanical limitations, but by genuine devotion. The neurochemical responses in this canine's brain, when interacting with Ambassador Everett, indicate emotional attachment similar to what most species reserve for their offspring. The Voidwalker nodded. Bond transcends utility. This is what you all refuse to comprehend. Enough theory, Drovash cut in, neck frills flaring with impatience. The practical matter remains. This creature represents an unacceptable security risk. 3 dining hall workers have requested transfers after witnessing it consume protein cubes. The Miltonian delegation threatened to withdraw from trade negotiations unless we guarantee the animal will be confined during discussions. Ambassador Everett. Zextool's voice carried the practiced neutrality of a career mediator. Surely you understand our predicament. Many species here evolved from organisms that would have been prey for creatures like your Fenris. Their fear response is instinctual. Fear response? Vance questioned. Or prejudice? Because while everyone fixates on my dog, nobody seems concerned about the Azrathi representative's symbiotic bacteria that could theoretically consume this entire station. Or the Hive Mother's guards who carry enough venom to kill everyone in this room. Those are different, began Drawbesh. Different how? Because they looked less threatening. The most venomous creatures in Earth's history were often small and colourful. Appearance means nothing. Cribble's display changed again, showing footage from Earth. Dogs guiding vision-impaired humans, locating survivors in disaster rubble, alerting to medical emergencies before they happen. Beyond companionship, Cribble explained. These beings serve functions no technology has perfectly replicated. They detect certain diseases through scent before medical instruments can. They provide psychological benefits that affect human physical health. Some can predict neurological events before they occur. Remarkable, admitted a neuroplasmic physicist. Are they partially psionic? No, Vance said. Just very, very good at reading body language and scent markers. 50,000 years of coevolution creates capabilities that might seem supernatural but aren't. The Voidwalker's voice cut through the renewed murmuring. My species understands. We too have companions, though we rarely bring them to diplomatic functions. Every head in the room turned toward the Voidwalker, whose species was notorious for revealing almost nothing about their homeworld or biology. You maintain predator companions? Zextool asked cautiously. Not precisely. Our companions were never predators. They were something else. The Voidwalker seemed almost amused. Perhaps someday we will introduce them. The cryptic statement hung in the air until a commotion outside the conference room drew everyone's attention. The doors slid open to reveal a junior security officer, her exoskeleton clicking with agitation. Director Drovash, she chittered urgently, we have a situation in environmental control. Unauthorized access detected. Systems showing manipulation of life support parameters. Drovash rose immediately. Sabotage? Unknown, Director. But someone or something is definitely interfering with atmospheric composition in the diplomatic quarter. The meeting dissolved into chaos as representatives hurried out, suddenly less concerned with canine teeth than with potential atmospheric tampering. Vance exchanged glances with the Voidwalker, who remained unnervingly calm amid the panic. How convenient, Vance murmured. Indeed, replied the Voidwalker, almost as if something wished to end a tedious discussion. As they exited the conference room, Vance couldn't help noticing that Fenris, waiting patiently outside, had his nose up and ears forward, intensely focused down the corridor toward environmental control. Long before anyone else, the wolf hybrid had detected something amiss. Alarm klaxons wailed throughout the environmental control sector as Fenris strained against his leash, pulling Ambassador Vance Everett forward with surprising force. The wolf hybrid's behavior had transformed completely. Gone was the relaxed companion, replaced by a creature of focused intensity. He wants to show us something, Vance explained to the security team that had assembled outside the main atmospheric processing chamber. His behavior indicates he's tracking an unusual scent. Security Director Drovash flicked her tongue skeptically. And we should trust the instincts of a primitive Earth predator over our advanced detection systems because your advanced systems haven't found the problem yet, Vance countered. Meanwhile, Fenris started acting unusual 20 minutes before your alarms triggered. The Voidwalker, who had silently joined the group, spoke. Consider the possibility. Canine olfactory capabilities might detect chemical signatures your sensors overlook. Drovash's scales flushed with annoyance, but she gestured toward the sealed chamber. Fine. The atmosphere inside is still breathable. Barely. We've detected trace amounts of airborne toxins, origin unknown. Let him track, Vance suggested. He's trained for search and rescue. If something or someone is in there, he'll find it. After a moment of hesitation, Drovash nodded. The massive doors parted with a pneumatic hiss, revealing the heart of the station's life support system. A vast chamber filled with purification columns, chemical scrubbers, and atmospheric regulators. The moment they entered, Fenris pulled hard toward the eastern quadrant, nose working furiously. Vance followed, trailed by Drovash, 2 security officers, and the ever-curious Cribble, who recorded everything with barely contained excitement. Remarkable scent discrimination, the cultural analyst whispered. He's filtering out thousands of ambient chemicals to isolate specific molecules of interest. Less admiration, more vigilance, Drovash snapped, weapon drawn and ready. Fenris halted abruptly before a maintenance tunnel, hackles raised, a low growl rumbling from his chest. He's found something, Vance translated unnecessarily. The security team trained weapons on the tunnel entrance. Drovash signaled to her officers, who positioned themselves strategically before she addressed the darkness. This is Security Director Drovash. Exit immediately or we will authorize lethal force. Silence answered her ultimatum. Then, unexpectedly, Fenris ceased growling and cocked his head, ears twitching. Something's moving, Vance whispered. From the shadows emerged not a saboteur but a small maintenance drone, buzzing erratically. Before anyone could react, the machine darted forward, sparking wildly, and slammed into the nearest atmospheric regulator. A compartment on its underside opened, releasing a cloud of iridescent particles. "Contamination protocol!" shouted Drovash, but it was already too late. The particles dispersed rapidly, flowing toward the central ventilation system. Fenris lunged forward, breaking free from Vance's grip. With astonishing speed, the wolf hybrid intercepted the drone as it prepared to release a second cloud. Powerful jaws closed around the machine, crushing its propulsion system. Sparks flew. The drone detonated with a flash, sending everyone staggering backward. When the smoke cleared, they saw Fenris sprawled motionless on the floor. "Quarantine the contamination," Drovash ordered her team, even as she stared at the fallen canine. "And get a medical team here immediately." Vance rushed to his companion's side. Fenris lay still, fur singed, but a shallow rise and fall of his chest indicated life. Prevented a second release," the Voidwalker observed, moving to kneel beside the ambassador. "Without his intervention, the contamination would have reached critical levels." Within minutes, the chamber swarmed with emergency personnel. Environmental specialists contained the released particles, while medical technicians examined Fenris. "The canine's respiratory system shows damage from toxin exposure," reported the Melbovian chief medical officer, whiskers twitching as she studied her diagnostic device. "But our database lacks treatment protocols for Earth fauna." "I have his medical records," Vance said, voice tight with concern. "Standard canine emergency treatments should apply." High Mediator Zek's stool arrived, their gelatinous form pulsating rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation. "The Station Council demands answers. What happened here?" "Sabotage," Drovash stated flatly. "Someone reprogrammed a maintenance drone to disperse bioactive compounds into our atmosphere. Preliminary analysis suggests the particles would have caused respiratory distress in 90% of station species." And the contamination? Contained, thanks to quick response. And Drobash hesitated, scales shifting uncomfortably. Thanks to the human's companion. Zextul's surface rippled with surprise. The predator? Fenris detected the threat before our systems did, Vance explained, not moving from his companion's side as the medical team worked, and he neutralized the drone before it could release its full payload. The news spread through the gathered crowd. The same beings who had recoiled from Fenris now murmured with newfound appreciation, though still maintaining a respectful distance. Cribble pushed forward, Datapad clutched excitedly. This confirms my hypothesis. The canine's protective instincts extended beyond its primary human bond to encompass the entire community. Fascinatingly altruistic behavior for a supposed apex predator. Not altruism, the Voidwalker corrected. Duty. The creature understood its purpose. Protection. As the medical team prepared to transport Fenris to the treatment center, Ambassador Everett remained by his side, one hand resting gently on the singed fur. "Will he recover?" asked Zextul, surprising everyone with the question. "His prognosis is positive," the medical officer confirmed. Earth mammals possess remarkable resilience to toxins, apparently. Drovesh approached, neck frills subdued in what might have been embarrassment. "Ambassador, I must acknowledge that without your companion's assistance, this incident could have resulted in significant casualties." "Perhaps," Vance suggested with deliberate casualness, "this illustrates why humans find value in keeping predators as companions." The security director's scales flushed, but she nodded curtly. "The Council will need to reassess certain protocols regarding Earth fauna. For now, focus on your companion's recovery." As the medical team departed with Fenris on a hover stretcher, Vance following closely, the assembled species exchanged uncertain glances. "Most unusual," Zextul commented. "A creature we designated as a security threat became our defender." The Voidwalker seemed amused. "Perhaps the universe's greatest irony. That which you fear most may be what saves you." Cribble bounced excitedly. "We must document everything. This incident completely reshapes our understanding of human-companion dynamics." "First," Drovash interrupted, "we must identify who reprogrammed the drone. This was a deliberate attack." The Voidwalker's dark robe seemed to absorb the light around them as they turned toward the exit. "Sometimes the most dangerous creatures are not those with obvious teeth and claws, but those who seem harmless until they strike." The Grand Assembly Chamber of Nexus Station had never hosted such a diverse gathering. Representatives from every resident species crowded the tiered seating, their attention fixed on the central podium where cultural analyst Cribble had been granted an unprecedented full session to present his findings. Behind him, a series of holographic displays cycled through data visualizations, anatomical comparisons, and behavioral analyses. In the front row, Ambassador Vance Everett sat with Fenris at his feet. The wolf hybrid had recovered remarkably well. Only a patch of slightly lighter fur on his flank evidenced his encounter with the sabotage drone 3 cycles earlier. Dignified and alert, he observed the proceedings with canine equanimity, seemingly oblivious to his role as the central subject of galactic scrutiny. "To summarize my preliminary conclusions," Krybel announced, bouncing on his podium extender with uncontained enthusiasm, "the human-canine relationship represents the most successful cross-species partnership documented in galactic history." Holographic charts materialized around him, showing comparative timelines of various interspecies relationships across known civilizations. While 17 other spacefaring cultures have developed symbiotic relationships with non-sentient organisms, none approach the complexity, duration, or emotional depth of the human-canine bond. What began as mutual hunting advantage evolved into something our xenopsychology frameworks struggle to categorize. High Mediator Zexthul, presiding from the elevated central platform, gestured for attention. Analyst Cribble, the Council appreciates your thoroughness. However, we must address practical concerns. Following the environmental sabotage incident, many delegates have expressed revised opinions regarding the presence of Earth canines on diplomatic installations. Revised how, exactly? Vance asked, one hand resting casually on Fenris's head. Security Director Drovash stepped forward from her position near the chamber entrance. Her scales had settled into a neutral blue-grey, a marked change from her previous agitated orange whenever Fenris was present. The Security Directorate has completed its investigation of the atmospheric contamination attempt, she announced. Forensic analysis confirmed the sabotage drone was reprogrammed by an agent with detailed knowledge of our environmental systems. The toxin was specifically engineered to affect most oxygen-breathing species while leaving certain silicon-based life forms unharmed. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. And the perpetrator? Prompted Zexthul. Apprehended attempting to board an outbound transport. A diplomatic attaché from the Crystalline Collective. The revelation sent shockwaves through the chamber. The Crystalline Collective, renowned for their sophisticated technology and supposedly pacifistic philosophy, had 4 representatives present, who immediately huddled together in agitated conference. The significance to our current discussion, Drovash continued, is that our standard security protocols failed to prevent this attack. Our sensors did not detect the toxin until dispersal had begun. Our automated systems did not identify the drone's behavioral anomalies. She paused, neck frills extending slightly in what humans had learned to recognize as reluctant admission. The Earth canine, however, detected both the saboteur's scent trail and the toxin compounds before any artificial system. Furthermore, the canine acted decisively to neutralize the threat despite personal risk. Vance maintained a carefully neutral expression, though the corner of his mouth twitched upward slightly. From the shadowed area reserved for the Voidwalker delegation came a resonant voice. The irony escapes none of us. That which was deemed too dangerous to permit in public spaces proved essential to public safety. The lead crystalline representative rose, facets gleaming under the chamber lights. The actions of a rogue element do not reflect collective policy. We denounce this terrorist act and offer reparations. Your contrition is noted, Zexthul acknowledged. But tangential to our present discussion, the Security Director makes a compelling point regarding the previously unrecognized benefits of Earth fauna. Cribble seized the opening. Precisely. The capabilities demonstrated by Fenris exemplify why humans maintained their ancient partnership into the technological age. No artificial sensor matches the canine olfactory system's discrimination abilities. No security algorithm replicates their contextual threat assessment. The bond transcends functionality. It represents cooperation between distinct evolutionary paths. A Melbovian biochemist stood, whiskers quivering with excitement. My laboratory has analyzed samples from the canine. The neural pathways linking scent detection to emotional processing are unlike anything in our xenobiology database. We believe artificial recreation of this system could revolutionize threat detection technology. You propose to replace living companions with machines? The Voidwalker's question carried a hint of amusement. For species lacking the human capacity to cohabitate with predators, technological alternatives seem practical, the biochemist defended. Vance shook his head. You miss the fundamental point. The effectiveness of canines as companions isn't just about their sensory capabilities. It's about the relationship, the trust, loyalty, and understanding developed over thousands of generations of co-evolution. A machine might replicate the function, but never the bond. Bold claim. challenged a tentaculoid philosopher. Define this bond in quantifiable terms. Before Vance could respond, the Voidwalker representative glided into the central floor, drawing collective attention. In all recorded diplomatic history, Voidwalkers had never voluntarily taken center stage in multi-species assemblies. Perhaps demonstration surpasses explanation. The tall, robed figure turned toward the chamber entrance. With the assembly's permission, I will introduce my own companion. A moment of stunned silence followed, broken by Zexthul's cautious assent. The assembly welcomes this unprecedented contribution to our discussion. The Voidwalker made a gesture toward the entrance. The massive doors parted to reveal nothing. The corridor beyond appeared empty. Confused murmurs filled the chamber until someone gasped. A patch of shadow near the Voidwalker seemed to deepen, darken, and then, impossibly, detach itself from the floor. It rose, forming a shape best described as a living absence of light, with edges that constantly shifted and flowed. No features were discernible except two faint purple-tinged illuminations where eyes might logically exist. Pandemonium erupted. Several delegates fled their seats. Security personnel drew weapons, though none seemed eager to approach the shadow entity. "Please remain calm," the Voidwalker requested, voice cutting through the chaos. "This is Umbra, my people's equivalent of what humans call companion animal. It means no harm." Fenris, remarkably, showed no distress. The wolf-humid observed the shadow creature with alert curiosity, rather than fear. "What manner of abomination?" began the crystalline representative. "Umbra's species evolved in the dark matter currents surrounding our homeworld," the Voidwalker explained conversationally, as though discussing nothing more unusual than the station's recycling system. "They consume energy wavelengths harmful to my kind. We provide environments rich in these energies. They provide protection and companionship. The relationship began 17 million years ago. The shadow entity, politely, drifted closer to its Voidwalker companion, seemingly attentive to the ongoing discussion. "Are you suggesting," Zexthul managed, their gelatinous form nearly transparent with shock, "that your species domesticated shadow predators?" "Not predators," corrected the Voidwalker. "Umbra's kind were prey on our world, hunted by creatures you would find considerably more disturbing. We offered sanctuary. They offered assistance. The relationship evolved naturally." Gribble looked as though he might explode with scientific excitement. "A second case of Crossberry's domestication. This transforms our entire understanding of evolutionary convergence. More relevantly," the Voidwalker continued, "it demonstrates Ambassador Everett's point. Throughout the cosmos, sentient beings form bonds with other life forms. The human-canine connection simply represents one expression of an apparently universal tendency." Vance smiled. "Convergent evolution across light years. Different biology, similar solution." "Precisely," agreed the Voidwalker. "The true oddity is not that humans maintain relationships with other species, but that so many spacefaring cultures abandon such relationships during their technological development." Security Director Drovash, who had maintained remarkable composure despite the shadow creature's appearance, stepped forward. "Returning to practical matters, both these companions demonstrated capabilities our security systems lack. The Council must consider whether our prohibition against such beings constitutes a vulnerability rather than a safeguard." Zexthul's surface rippled with conflicted emotions. "You propose we permit potentially dangerous, non-sentient life forms aboard diplomatic installations?" "I propose we recognize that danger comes in many forms," Drovash replied. "The recent sabotage attempt originated from a supposedly peaceful delegate, while the dangerous predator we nearly banned saved countless lives. A tense silence fell over the assembly as the implications settled. Finally, Zek's tool spoke. The Council will establish new protocols governing companion species aboard diplomatic installations. Ambassador Everett, your Fenris will be granted provisional diplomatic status, subject to reasonable safety measures. The announcement generated mixed reactions throughout the chamber, but the loudest voice belonged to Crivel, who could no longer contain himself. "Wait, there's something everyone has overlooked," the small analyst bounced frantically. "If Voidwalkers domesticated shadow beings and humans domesticated wolves, what creatures might other species domesticate given the opportunity? The xenobiological potential is staggering." The Voidwalker's voice carried a note of warning. "Authentic companionship cannot be manufactured, Analyst Creeple. It emerges through mutual benefit over evolutionary timescales. Attempting to force such relationships would likely prove disastrous." "Nevertheless," Cribble persisted, "we must document these examples for the galactic archives. Two species independently developing cross-species bonds suggests a possible universal principle." As the assembly dissolved into excited scientific discussion, Vance knelt beside Fenris, scratching behind the wolf hybrid's ears. "Good boy," he murmured. "You've just changed interspecies diplomacy forever, and all you care about is dinner time." Fenris thumped his tail contentedly against the floor. From across the chamber, the Voidwalker observed the human and canine with ancient eyes. The shadow being at their side seemed equally attentive, its formless edges rippling in patterns that might have indicated curiosity. "The great cosmic joke," the Voidwalker commented quietly to Vance as the Council continued debating furiously, "is that while they worried about your companion's teeth, none thought to question which species in this room evolved as the most efficient killers." "Oh," Vance raised an eyebrow. "Consider, in your planet's history, no predator hunted as successfully, adapted as quickly, or spread as far as humans. You weren't domesticated by wolves, they were domesticated by you. The greatest predator of all." Vance smiled enigmatically. "I guess it takes one to know one?" The Voidwalker's eyes gleamed with something approaching humor. "Indeed. The truly dangerous species are rarely those who look threatening. They're the ones clever enough to make everyone forget they're dangerous at all." Across the chamber, the crystalline representatives huddled in discomfort, their supposedly peaceful delegation now under intense scrutiny. Fenris yawned, displaying his impressive teeth without concern or guile. The ancient predator, transformed by millennia of partnership into something new, yet still carrying echoes of the wild within him. Just like his human companion,